Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get you those essential insights. Basically, the shortcut to being really well informed on what's happening. This week, we're plunging into the latest Azure service updates, specifically everything rolled out between August 18th and August 22nd, 2025. And this summary, we generated it just yesterday, Sunday, August 24th. So it's super fresh, especially for those of you building and managing stuff on Azure day to day.
Exactly. And I'm here to help connect those dots. We're not just listing announcements. We want to get into the why, What do these updates really mean for your projects, your architecture?
That's the goal. We've done the sifting, so you get the important stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump right in. First, let's look at things impacting how you build and run apps. Thinking serverless, VMs, that kind of area. So first one up, big for developers. Azure Functions now supports Node.js 22, and it's generally available. This isn't just like a minor version bump, is it? It means local development, deployment across all plans, Linux, Windows.
Yeah, it's actually quite significant. Having Node.js 22 GA shows Azure's commitment to staying current with open source runtimes. For developers, it means you get the latest performance boost, the new language features, security updates right away. It makes the workflow smoother, less friction between your local setup and the cloud platform. Helps productivity, helps future-proof your apps a bit too. It's Azure evolving with Node.js, not just supporting it.
Right, keeping that toolkit sharp. And staying on Azure Functions, the Flex Consumption plan, it now supports a 512 millibit instance size, plus diagnostic settings, so you've got 512, 2048, and 4096 millibit now. Seems small, 512 millibit. But what's the real impact? Cost optimization, architecture.
Oh, definitely. Don't underestimate the 512. It's a big step towards, true pay-for-what-you-use granularity. Before, if your function needed, say, 600 millibit, you had to jump to the 2048 millibit instance, a bit wasteful. Now, 512 millibit lets those really small focused microservices be genuinely cost-effective. No more over-provisioning for those tiny workloads.
Okay. So it encourages breaking things down even smaller.
Exactly. It could really push people towards even finer-grained microservices. Think about simple event triggers, quick data transformations, IoT messages, stuff that needs fast execution but minimal compute. And the diagnostic settings piece is key too. With more smaller functions, you need good monitoring to track things down. So yeah, it helps optimize cost, performance, and reliability for these smaller function types.
Makes sense, that precision focus. It also applies to some really high-end stuff, especially around security. You mentioned specialized compute, and there's a really interesting preview here. It's a private preview for the DCS v6 and ECS v6 series confidential VMs with Intel TDX. Okay, that's a mouthful. Next-gen confidential VMs, 5th gen Intel Xeon, Emerald Rapids, Intel Trust Domain Extensions, TDX. So for our tech audience, what is Intel TDX doing here? And why is protecting data in use such a big deal?
Right. It's a pretty major leap in cloud security. Intel TDX fundamentally lets the processor create this hardware-isolated bubble for the VM. Intel calls it a trust domain. The crucial part, it shields the VM's memory and CPU state even from the hypervisor, meaning Azure itself, the cloud provider, cannot access your data while it's being processed.
Ah, wow. Okay, so beyond encryption at rest and in transit?
Exactly. Data in use when it's loaded in memory, being crunched by the CPU, that's always been the hardest state to protect, especially from, a privileged admin or maybe even really sophisticated hardware attacks. TDX tackles that head on. Hardware enforced trusted execution.
So this is huge for regulated industries. Finance, healthcare.
Absolutely game-changing for them. Anywhere data confidentiality is paramount. Think sensitive IP algorithms. You can run them in the cloud, but keep them completely opaque, even to the provider. Of course, performance with this level of security is always a question, and that's what the private preview will help figure out. But yeah, it seriously raises the bar for trust in the public cloud.
That confidential computing angle is definitely pushing boundaries. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Moving from compute to the foundations. Managing, securing, storing your data. Get several GA updates here. First one, Azure Migrate. It now supports migration to disks with zone redundant storage, ZRS, redundancy. So during migration, you pick ZRS, and it automatically provisions the ZRS disk. What's the real-world impact of having ZRS as an integrated migration option?
It's all about simplifying high availability right from the start of your cloud journey. ZRS, remember, syncs your data across 3 physically separate availability zones in a region: independent power, cooling, networking in each zone. So building this into Migrate means you get that zone failure protection baked in, no complex manual steps after migrating.
Right, so if one whole data center in the region has a problem,
your data's safe and accessible from the other zones. No data loss. It's critical for mission-critical apps. Maybe a tiny bit more latency than LRS, locally redundant because of the cross-zone sync, but for the resilience gain. Usually well worth it for enterprise stuff. It really ups the disaster recovery baseline for migrated workloads.
Definitely simplifies getting that enterprise resilience. Okay, networking. Another important GA update. Application Gateway adds MaxSurge support. The promise is zero capacity impact upgrades. For ops teams managing production, that sounds like exactly what you want. How does it work?
Yeah, this tackles a common pain point. Before MaxSurge, upgrading an app gateway could mean a temporary dip in capacity or even a small outage risk. Because old instances might shut down before new ones were fully ready, MaxSurge flips that. During an upgrade, the new instances are provisioned first, they get healthy, take traffic, then the old ones are gradually removed. So your gateway always maintains full capacity, maybe even briefly exceeds it.
Ah, so no dip.
No dip. For ops teams, that means much lower risk during maintenance, easier change control, better sleep at night, knowing user service won't be impacted. It takes away a lot of anxiety.
I can imagine. Okay, sticking with operations. Visibility and security. Monitoring first. Search job and log analytics now supports up to 100 million results. That sounds huge.
Yeah.
What does that unlock?
It is huge. It's a massive jump in scale for observability. Before, querying really large data sets in log analytics, especially over long periods, could be, well, difficult. This 100 million result limit for asynchronous search jobs lets you query across all your workspace data, including the long-term archives. Results land in new analytics tables for you to work with.
So think incident response over months of data, or finding really rare performance issues.
Exactly that. Imagine a security team tracing a slow burn attack across weeks or months, spanning thousands of resources. Or a performance engineer hunting a subtle bug that only shows up in, petabytes of telemetry under weird conditions. This lets you do that deep forensic analysis, that troubleshooting, at a scale that just wasn't practical before. It pushes log analytics further towards being a true enterprise SIEM and observability tool.
Powerful stuff. And on the security front, again, another GA. Azure NetApp file access logs, getting enterprise visibility into file ops across SMB and FSE 4.1 dual protocol volumes. For compliance folks, why is having native logs for these protocols so important?
Oh, this was highly requested. Getting those detailed native file access logs for ANF used to be tricky. You might need third-party tools, less integrated stuff. Now it's built in. GA covers SMB for Windows, NFSP 4.1 for Linux, Unix, and those dual protocol setups. It fills a major compliance gap. Think APO, PCI DSS, SOX. Any sensitive data. You have to show who accessed what file when and what they did.
The classic audit trail.
Precisely. These logs provide that critical evidence. It helps beef up security posture, investigate breaches, makes audits way smoother. It's that granular proof of access and modification that was harder to get natively before for these high-performance file shares.
Yeah, that native integration is key for compliance. And NetApp Files isn't done yet. There's a preview feature too. Plus, a blob storage region update. Okay, still on Azure NetApp Files, but in public preview, the flexible service level now supports cool access. Now, Flexible already lets you decouple capacity and throughput, right? Good for weird performance needs. How does adding cool access help?
Right, the flexible tier itself was already about optimizing cost by separating capacity from performance. Huge capacity, low throughput, fine. Small capacity, high throughput, also fun. Think archives, big data sets, backups you don't touch often. Adding cool access takes it another step. It's for data within that flexible volume that gets accessed even less frequently. But when you do access it, you still need the NetApp Files performance. The benefit is a lower cost per gigabyte for that cool data.
So like tiering within the NetApp Files volume itself.
Exactly. A more cost-effective way to handle data life cycles where some data gets cold, but you still need the ANF features, snapshots, replication, multi-protocol access. Instead of keeping everything hot, you can tune the economics better, especially for those really large enterprise file workloads.
Makes sense. Always chasing cost efficiency. And the final GA update in this section. Azure Blob Storage Archive tier is now generally available in Malaysia West. Simple expansion, but important for folks there. Data residency.
Yeah, straightforward, but definitely important. The archive tier is Azure's absolute cheapest storage. For data you almost never touch, retrieval takes hours. Bringing it to Malaysia West means customers in that region or those needing to keep data within Malaysia for sovereignty reasons can now use it. It's not just about cost saving, it's about meeting those strict data residency rules. Many orgs simply can't move data outside specific borders, so this lets them use the full range of Azure storage tiers while staying compliant. Shows Azure's ongoing global build-out while respecting local rules.
Right, that geographic availability is always key. Okay, before we hit the retirements, one more preview, this one for container networking. Big area in public preview. Azure Bastion now supports connectivity to private AKS clusters via tunneling. Okay, Bastion connecting to private AKS. Sounds useful. How does this actually work, and why is it a big deal for managing those secure clusters?
This is a really nice improvement for managing private AKS clusters securely and, frankly, more easily. Private AKS clusters, their whole point is the API server isn't on the public internet, right? More secure. But accessing it meant, well, workarounds. Jump boxes in the VNet, VPNs, Azure, private link setups can get complex.
Those operational steps.
Exactly. This new Bastion tunneling lets you set up a secure TLS tunnel right from your local machine through Bastion directly to that private AKS API server. You just configure your standard tools like Kubactl to use the Bastion tunnel as a proxy. The why is significant. No need for extra jump box infrastructure. Centralized access control via Bastion fits existing developer workflows.
The simpler and more secure access.
Yep. Keeps the API server truly private, but gives admins and CI/CD pipelines a straightforward, audible way in. Solves a common headache for orgs using private AKS.
Very practical. Okay, and now, as you mentioned, some important retirements we need to flag.
Indeed. These are specific to one region, but critical for customers there. We're seeing the retirement announcement for Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender for Cloud in Microsoft Azure, operated by 21 VNet. The reason given is basically it's gotten too complex, infrastructure and operations-wise, for Microsoft to maintain their required standards for protection and reliability in that specific sovereign cloud.
Okay, so 21 VNet users need to pay close attention here.
Absolutely. The implication is immediate planning is needed. Users of Sentinel and Defender for Cloud in Azure, operated by 21 VNet, have to find alternative SIEM and CSPM solutions. It's not just features going away, it's a prompt to reevaluate their security tooling to stay secure and compliant. It really highlights the unique challenges of operating in certain sovereign regions. Doesn't affect global Azure, but vital news for that specific customer base. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Wow, okay. That was quite a week for Azure updates. We covered a lot of ground. From developer tools like Node.js 22 and those granular 512mb function plans, to boosting infrastructure with ZRS migrations, zero-impact app gateway upgrades, plus better visibility with NetApp Files logs, new cool storage options, and then the really cutting-edge stuff, secure AKS access via Bastion, those Intel TDX confidential VMs.
Yeah, you really see that consistent push across the board, don't you? More efficiency, tighter security, empowering developers. Every update, whether it's a small cost tweak or a big security leap like TDX, kind of reshapes the options for architects and devs.
It does. And it makes you wonder, as these cloud services get ever more specialized, more regional, how do these constant cycles of innovation and sometimes strategic retirements, like we saw with 21 VNet, how does that force you to think about your long-term architecture, your data residency planning, even maybe your team skills?
That's a really good point. Something fundamental to chew on as you plan your next steps and how your cloud strategy needs to evolve.
Absolutely. Well, that's our deep dive for this week's Azure updates. We really hope this helped you stay ahead of the curve and tackle whatever challenge comes next. Until next time.